A few years ago, I had one of those teachable moments that I never imagined would be necessary. It was a quiet morning, and I was in my bedroom getting ready for the day. My kids were in the corner, giggling over something my son George was doing with his Nintendo DS. Suddenly, George announced, "I just took a picture of my penis." My children then witnessed the only time I have ever expressed an interest in electronic gaming devices. Because, oh yes, he certainly did. After 10 hysterical minutes of trying to figure out how to delete images from a Nintendo DS and threatening to set the memory card on fire, I was finally able to erase it. There are many rules in our house that sound utterly ridiculous out of context, like we never touch dead chipmunks, and we never pee on people. Thanks to modern technology, I could now add, we never take pictures of penises. My own girly childhood did not prepare me for raising boys, but now I have 2 young sons. As the mother of Oliver and George, I receive daily invitations to judge burping contests and smell this. And I now know that penis is the funniest word ever invented. In fact, I'm subjected to the word penis so regularly that one of my signature catchphrases has become "no more penis talk." I feel like I walk a fine line trying to teach my children about what's appropriate when discussing human anatomy. The last thing I want is for them to feel shame about their bodies. And it's not like men's obsession with that particular body part is a new concept for me. I've been married for over 15 years. I've spent plenty of time pretending to find penises fascinating. I'm just kidding. My husband will be the first to tell you that I don't bother pretending. But every time I chastise my boys for inappropriate penis talk, I am mindful of the fact that this is a cultural legacy. So sometimes I just ignore it, to the extent that sometimes I don't even notice it anymore. A couple of years ago, approximately 1 year after the dick pic incident, I offered to babysit my friend's son, Jack, over summer break. When you have 3 kids, adding a 4th really doesn't make that much of a difference. But when you have 2 boys, adding a 3rd takes the penis talk to an entirely new level. Unlike me, my daughter Eleanor has a much higher threshold for potty humor. So it was 4 against 1. I eventually gave up any attempt to try to control their conversations. The first hint of what that summer would be like arrived in the guise of someone named Xavier, who was causing no end of hilarity for the kids. Now, the fact that they pronounced it Xavier was an immediate tip-off that this was not a real person. There was no doubt in my mind that Xavier was an alter ego of some sort, and I was pretty sure it was a name that George had come up with for himself. When I confronted him about it, though, I was surprised to hear that I had been wrong. Xavier wasn't a name that George was using for himself. Xavier was a name George was using for his penis. There's a reason why George is very popular with boys his age. While Eleanor was able to hold her own with the boys, even she could only handle so much testosterone. She begged for a play date with a little girl named Emily. Now, Emily lived 10 minutes away and didn't know my sons very well. Instead of 2 brothers, she had 2 older sisters. She was from a house of girls. Now, I don't have experience in supervising this kind of environment, but from what Eleanor reports, it seems to involve a lot of crafts. Anticipating some culture shock, I suggested that the girls go upstairs while the boys were away from where the boys and I were playing a board game. That day, the boys were in rare form, and I had a hard time getting them to focus. As a result of my growing irritation with them, I started feeling competitive. On one of George's turns, he drew an action card. It challenged us all to try to make him laugh. The first one to succeed would receive $2,000, and if none of us could do it, he would get the money. George was feeling confident. He presented his best poker face. It was my turn first. I leaned in so we were practically nose to nose and said, "Penis." George's eyes grew huge. But he clamped his lips shut, not even a giggle. Then 5-year-old Jack flashed an evil grin as he whispered, and I'm not kidding, "Balls." George turned purple, but still maintained his silence. Finally, it was Oliver's turn. I should probably mention that of all the penis talkers, my oldest is the least enthusiastic. Maybe because of his special needs, or maybe he just doesn't find penises quite so hilarious. Either way, I've always suspected that he just does it to fit in. We had low expectations for him to defeat Stone Dog George. Oliver paused, smiled, and then said, "Penis made of buttermilk." Well, not only did George crack, he exploded with laughter. He and Jack could barely breathe as they rolled on the floor, screaming with mirth. I didn't even try to resist my plunge into full-blown Stockholm syndrome because penis made of buttermilk? It was just so weird. It was only as I wiped the final tears from my eyes that I noticed Eleanor in the room, laughing along with the rest of us, and next to her, the small figure of Emily, who looked like she had just witnessed a grisly animal sacrifice in the living room. With me holding the knife, of course. I could only imagine the conversation she'd have with her mother. "So what did you and Eleanor do today?" "Oh, not much. We made rainbow loom bracelets and then listened to her mother and brothers make penis jokes." Eleanor has yet to receive a return invitation to Emily's house. Clearly, it was time to take a firmer stand on what is and is not appropriate. Because as funny as these little stories can be, I am serious about raising my sons to respect boundaries and understand that while they may find their penises fascinating, they should not expect the rest of the world to automatically follow suit. One autumn evening, after the summer of penis talk, I was helping George with his homework. I watched him write the word pennies on a worksheet. He spelled it Penis. I thought, I could let his teacher field this one. But what the hell? I could take one for the team, because really, I just had to laugh.